And by now, I was okay with that, because after all, I did live much longer than the doctors predicted. Yes, I'd been very blessed to have those extra years, and I was grateful. But then, something incredible happened. I decided to try the raw milk Ellie had been trying to get me to take. It had done wonders for her and her son. What did I have to lose? So I called Connie Bartholomew, my upline sponsor, who is here today, waving hand. Connie? Who hurried over with the raw milk, fresh from a local Amish dairy. I started on raw milk 3 times a day, and, per Connie's recommendation, added meal shakes to the instant protein and milk, so it would go down easier, and it did. Pretty tasty. And I would get more nutrients quickly. It worked. In no time, it seems, my strength began to return little by little, and I started to feel more alive. But it still wasn't enough to give me the mega dose of strength that I so urgently needed in order to recover and turn this thing around. I was still too weak to be up off the couch more than several minutes at a time. I had no more fight left to even think about doing anything more to prolong my life. Death still felt welcome right about now. Everything I tried, and I had tried so many things, eventually failed. Why would Shackley be any different? Connie was not going to let me quit no matter how I tried to convince her that I was past the getting better stage. She assured me that with a Shackley megadose, I would be better. Shackley was different than all the other stuff I had taken, she said. And I said, that's what they all say. And that went on week after week. Finally, she convinced me to start on a program that helped a medical friend of hers who had cancer. Reluctantly agreed, but made her promise me that after 30 days, I didn't care about the money back, because that's what Shackley would give you. When it didn't work, she would just agree not to mention the word Shackley in my house ever again and let me die in peace. She agreed. So on April 5th, 1987, I started my first mini megadose, a fraction of what I take now. In addition to the Vital E instant protein meal shakes and Herblax, I started on B, C, and E, and lots of alfalfa for detoxifying. Just 2 weeks later, during a phone call from an aunt who used to call me often to check on me, said, "The miracle I'm praying for is finally happening." I said, "What's that?" She said, "It's you. You're getting better, Andrea. You're talking to me. Whenever I called you in the past several months, you weren't even strong enough to talk to me on the phone, and now you are." It was news to me. Her comment made me think, maybe the Shackley program is helping me after all. And what if more supplements created even more improvement? It was worth a try. I began recording any changes that I made in my program and any improvement I noticed personally or others noticed in me. Slowly, I kept increasing dosages and studying all I could from tapes Connie gave me, as well as books from my personal library. Connie also told me about Shackleyizing my home, and I was thrilled to learn about all the wonderful user-friendly cleaning and personal care products. Wow, all of those contributed greatly to my growing feeling of well-being. And within a few short months, I noticed incredible improvements. My blurry vision was clearing. I wasn't coughing so much anymore. The fluid in my belly stopped increasing. My strength and endurance were getting better. I didn't need as much oxygen, and the nausea was decreasing. Oh my gosh. It was truly amazing. But using only the finest and purest products on my body and in my home, as well as taking adequate doses of live food supplements, made all the difference in the world. At the Garrison Hospital, we were told only raw live foods could heal us, and that's exactly what Shackley is. No wonder I was getting better. I began to tell now I knew I was on the right track. How lucky was that? I began to tell my experiences to anyone who seemed interested. And in May 1988, I broke out as a Shackley supervisor, now called director. Wow. I had continually passed out sparkle buckets everywhere and was so excited with the people who I gave them to, with all the things we were learning about what these products did. We had a lot of fun. And I no longer had watery eyes from the cleaners, and all these chemicals that were in my home are no longer there. Wow. No offensive smells to deal with, and they worked. Products worked. People loved them. I was still on oxygen 24/7, carrying a tank around everywhere, but my strength enabled to be reasonably active, enough to become a Shackley director. That's pretty good. Success at last, and now I was on my way to Shackley coordinator, so I thought. And less than 2 weeks later, on June 11th, 1988, while I was out doing errands, I was actually at the bank making a deposit. I experienced a sudden onset of severe abdominal pain and nausea. Instant terror struck me. This one was different than others. I prayed I'd make it home safely. I knew I was in trouble. So back to the hospital. My diagnosis, extensive peritonitis. The fluid that had been collecting in my belly for all these years, even though it quit draining, it became infected. And it did not respond to any treatment. Nausea, projectile vomiting, and pain continued to persist. And weeks later, my symptoms still persisted. So finally at the hospital, there was nothing left to do for me but transfer me to the terminal unit, kind of like where terminal patients were, of a wing of a nursing home. By the time I was transferred in mid-July 1988, I weighed 97 pounds, and at least 7 to 10 pounds was still fluid. One friend told me I looked like a bird that was just hatched out of an egg. What they looked like. Another friend told me I looked worse than some pictures she'd seen of people released from concentration camps, to make it graphic. That's how I looked. Didn't want to believe them, but they saw me. There I continued to linger. So in mid-August, my doctor decided to send me back to the hospital, do more scans, and see if maybe there was one more thing she might be able to do for me before I died. It turned out that more infection had spread, and they were able to drain some of it out. And lo and behold, a few days later, to my surprise, I was able to tolerate some food. And the nursing home served me lima beans. But it was food, and I was so excited. And I could handle it. And pretty soon I was taking Shackley supplements, starting with small amounts of Liquid throughout the day, and as many supplements as I could swallow. So on August 29th, I was finally strong enough to be discharged home on an oxygen mask 24/7 and nearly bedbound. The months that followed were long, my progress slow. But by October, I was able to tolerate small megadose of supplements again, plus Slim Plan drink, like Cinch, instant protein a few times a day. At one of my follow-up doctor visits, my physician made it very clear to me that no one ever survives the kind of peritonitis I had. It had to be that stuff I was taking. And of course I agreed. She continued to be amazed at my steady progress. And by the time Dr. Kleinhans took another job out of state a year later, I had gone back to work part-time as a physical therapist and had become a Shackley director again. In 1992, my secret dream to build a beautiful Shackley house became a reality. And at that time, I was working full-time as a physical therapist and working my Shackley business evenings and weekends. During the entire construction period of about 6 months, which I supervised daily, I lived primarily on all the Shackley drinks, including Slim Plan Performance Physique, and over 125 supplements, which I took 4 times a day. Vitalizer wasn't around then. That would cut down the number, I'm sure. That Shackley program sustained me well and supplied me with amazing strength and energy. And, of course, I was still dragging an oxygen tank around with me, though, day and night, so I needed lots of energy. Shackley gave me. Most of the next 10 years of my health thrived, so that I even managed to be free of oxygen totally for almost 3 years. It was such a freeing feeling. You'd never know I had just recently recovered from near death. I know that my healthy home and environment contributed greatly to my recovery. from a reverse osmosis best water unit under my sink, purifying my water, to later an air source 3000, purifying the air in my home, in the absence of toxic chemicals anywhere in my personal life. I was living as much as possible in harmony with nature. It worked. I'm going to pretty much stop the story here in their name because of time, but just want to end with saying that Nutriferon, Vitalizer, and Vivix were not around at that time. And I really believe that it would have been a different story had they been, because I had more problems after I left that house. I downsized to a freestanding house that was a condo, and we didn't know it had mold. And we didn't know that in the course of the move, I would also develop an immune deficiency, an additional immune deficiency. So I ended up with a lot of problems. But it was, first of all, Nutriferon that pulled my immune system back up and allowed me to get off the monthly IVs that I was getting for 16 months. Never happened to anybody before. Doctor said couldn't happen. It did. Then, when Vitalizer came along, I was able to reduce some of the amount of supplements because there was such a powerful system. And then when Vivix came along, my numbers shot up, breathing numbers. And the doctor said, she can't even believe it. She said, it just doesn't happen. No, do you know anybody with a lung condition where their breathing is going down, 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 and then all of a sudden they go one day and say, guess what, doctor, I took this, and my numbers are way back up here. No, see, I never met anybody like that. I'm in touch with people with lung problems, and it happened to me. So I'm on the road, getting better again, and still requiring oxygen some hours a day because I'm still in that house and the market has not helped me get out of it. In closing, I'd like to say that there is one very important lesson I've learned throughout the course of this illness, and that is, to a great extent, we can control the direction of our health in our lives. And I want to thank everyone here who has been supporting me all through the years, because the biggest part of Shackley, Rose and I were talking about that, is really even more than these fabulous products and this fabulous company. It's the people, the Shackley people that were my support system right along. Ann saying, Andrea, you look so much better. I come in, Rose says, Andrea, you're looking better every time I see you. These kinds of things are so important to me. Others in my life hardly notice. And we need that. We need to support each other. That's what Shackley folks are like. That's what they do, and that's who we are. And thank you all. I owe you a debt of gratitude. And I wish you all health and a great life. And just a lot more.